All right, so welcome everybody to this webinar. So the webinar is titled How to Prepare for a Scholarship, Accelerated or Selective Schools Exam. Do we have any kids on the call who are currently preparing for an exam?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, fantastic. So what school are you preparing for? Any particular school that you're preparing for? No. All right.
Bacchus Marsh.
Bacchus Marsh. Okay, fantastic. All right. Now, Ayan is preparing for Melbourne High. Nuan is preparing for Southern Cross Grammar. Mariam is aiming for Selective. Okay, Rodney's preparing to take the academic test for Year 7 for Ivanhoe Grammar. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to go through quite a few things today. Make sure that you type any questions into the chat and we'll be able to answer those questions for you. All right, so now let's get started. So exam season is just around the corner. So now is the perfect time to start thinking about how to maximize your child's chances of success, right? So it's important to get a drink because we'll be bunkering down here for a while because there's a lot to cover. And also make sure that you have a pen and notepad handy to record any questions that you may have throughout the session, all right? All right, so let's see whether you're in the right place. So this is for you if you want to find out more about each type of exam and about what opportunities exist for your child. This is also for you if you want some guidance on specific resources and techniques that have been proven to help students succeed on competitive exams. And this is also for you if you're looking for a program with a proven track record to help your child improve confidence and their chances of success. Okay, so I have a couple of free gifts for you that I'll be sharing with you at the end of today's session. So we've got a free 5-week scholarship and selective test preparation course, which is delivered via email. We also have a free online assessment and free 7-day trial of our online classes. So the free online assessment also comes with a free consultation. So we'll be able to pinpoint exactly which areas you're having issues with if you haven't already done that. And we also have a free scholarship searcher, which I will be sharing with you as well. Another bonus that I have is a Trello board that I've created specifically for test preparation students, right? So Trello is a free and flexible project management app that you can download on any device as well as open on your browser, right? So you can have it as an iPhone or iPad app, or you can have it on your browser, and anytime you make an update to that, it'll appear on your other devices, and it's something that I use every single day, and I'll show you how this can be done. So the way it works is it allows you to create cards that you can move around similar to Post-it notes. So rather than just having Post-it notes just everywhere, or just having some pieces of paper where you're scribbling down things that you need to do. You've got a Trello board, so it's a tech solution to just a to-do list, and it's a way just to move the cards around the board when things are getting done, right? So it's a really fun way just to keep track of all of your tasks. And I've created one specifically for test preparation. So it's definitely helped me over the years, and once you use it, I'm very, very confident that it will help you too. So what you need to do is you can copy and paste the Trello board that I've specifically designed to help students manage their exam tasks in a way that's fun for them and keeps them motivated. So time management is absolutely key to success in work and in life, and if you're serious about setting your child up to stay focused, motivated, and ultimately succeed at school, this tool will definitely help you. All right, so I've also included a link to a video which will show you step-by-step how to use this Trello board. So are you interested in getting this? So if you can just put down in the chat yes or no, or just a quick thumbs up, that would be great. Let's see if I can get more. Fantastic. All right. So Chia says that they're interested. Usha's interested. Nick's interested. Fantastic. All right. So I can't wait for you to check it out. I was really, really excited when I was creating it because there are just so many tasks and it's so hard to keep track of sometimes. All right. So let's move on. So what parents want for their kids. So thumbs up if you agree to each of the following. So parents want their kids to be happy and healthy, right? Thumbs up if you agree with me. Yeah, Lenny says yes. Carla says yes. Manara says yes. Parents also want their kids to attend the very best schools, right? Thumbs up if you agree with me. Yeah, Nick says yes. Vinay says yes. Kat says yes. Fantastic. And parents also want their kids to have the best opportunities in life, right? So we can all agree on these three things, right? So Inez says yes, Yasha says yes, right? We all say yes. But gaining entry to your chosen school can be quite a difficult process, right? Because some schools are more highly ranked than others, which makes them a lot more competitive to get into, right? Some problems during the application process might be that your child or you might live outside of the school zone, so it's just a little bit out of reach. Okay. Another problem might be that it's often very expensive and you just have a lack of funds. So some schools charge fees in excess of $20,000 to $30,000 a year, which is just completely out of reach for some people. But you know, you like the look of the school and you just want to find whether there are any options on how to get into this particular school. Okay, and they might have an entrance exam. Okay, so that's probably the only barrier between your child getting in and not getting in. Right, so there are three options in terms of these types of competitive schools. So you've got scholarship programs, you have accelerated learning programs, and you have the selective schools exam. Right, so Fatima says that funding is the main reason. Yes, funding is a major reason, particularly for a lot of private schools, but there are a lot of other programs as well that are just as good, if not better than some of the private schools. So that's just something to think about. Right, so nice to meet you. My name is Tui Pham and I am the founder of Spectrum Tuition, and we've been preparing students for these competitive exams for the past 20 years, okay? And it's a process that we keep refining every single year by surveying our students after they've finished their exams just to see whether we can update our materials in some way. So in terms of my own experience, I started Spectrum Tuition when I was 18 years old as a way to help local kids with their homework, right? So it wasn't really a career or anything like that. It was just something that myself and my brothers were doing. So after I finished my initial degrees in commerce and arts, the business was just built to a point where I decided to pursue it as a career. Okay, so I decided to study postgraduate teaching. And this is when I had a bit of a turning point, right? So previously, I didn't have a lot of experience in teaching, or I didn't have any experience in teaching. All I had was passion and dedication to helping kids in my local area. But it wasn't until I went and completed my teaching rounds that I discovered how inconsistent the education system was. And this isn't just in Australia. This is everywhere, all over the world. So many teachers are expected to reinvent the wheel every single year. Because the way that works is what will happen is in 1 year, you might have a teacher who is assigned Year 7 English and Year 9 Maths, for example. And then the following year, they're assigned Year 8 English and Year 10 Maths, right? So all of the programming that they'd done the previous year is gone because they have different classes to teach. So they're reinventing the wheel every single year as opposed to refining what they've already built and what they've already prepared for that particular year. Okay, and for this reason, the quality vary tremendously from school to school and from teacher to teacher within that same school, right? So the experience that I had was that when I was on my teaching rounds, I had some teachers who were preparing for their classes in the morning, right? And it's not their fault at all. They're just put under so much pressure. Yes, definitely, Fatima. Okay, so you can definitely relate to that, right? So because they're put under so much pressure to do so much admin work and all these meetings, and they have different classes with varied abilities, and they have to plan according to often 25 different levels within the same class. So across those 4 schools, I saw 4 completely different approaches. And I thought, well, hang on a second, there's something not quite right here, okay? Because it shouldn't be the case that just because a student attends a particular school in a particular area that they should have a better or a worse experience from another student from a different school. Right? So there were very, very stark differences. So for example, one year 5 class at one school that I was with, they grew vegetables and learned their maths and their English by selling their vegetables in their school newsletter. So, they were learning about persuasive language. They were learning about business. They were learning about, all the maths and all the English that went into that. And then just in another school, just in a couple of suburbs away, many students at another year 5 class at a different school still didn't know their 2 times tables. Okay, so the effect of this inconsistency is that the standard will therefore vary significantly from one school to the next, and even from one teacher to the next within that same school. So a lot of parents ask me, is it really necessary that my child prepare for these scholarship and select entry exams? And my answer to that is unequivocally, yes, because you don't know what standard your child's school is currently at, right? So they might, and this is a situation that we see time and time again. Students tend to, get very, very high results in their school reports, and so then, parents will come to us, we'll do an assessment, and we find that the student's standard isn't actually quite up to standard at that particular point in time, and that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But according to the school that the child is at, they're doing really, really well. So it's, the point is that the standard is just really, really different across all schools. So it's really important to make sure that you do everything that you can to improve your child's chances of success. Okay, as mentioned before, this is not the teacher's fault. It's just the system that we're working in, right? So, and it's important for you to trust your intuition as well. So, often at parent-teacher interviews, you might have a really, really bright student, and the teacher will say, well, your child's doing really, really well. There isn't really anything more that your child needs to do. Often your child might tell you that they might finish work a lot earlier than other students, and that they are asked to sit in the corner and read a book, right? So if you find that your child is capable of achieving more, then they probably are capable of achieving more, and they should be given the opportunity to shine and to demonstrate their knowledge, okay? So a common question that I'm often asked is, what's the difference between scholarships, accelerated and selective programs? So in terms of scholarship exams, these programs are offered by private and or independent schools. They offer a percentage reduction in the school fees, which are often in excess of $15,000 to sometimes $25,000, $30,000. Okay, so often the percentage would be something along the lines of somewhere between 25% to 75% and sometimes 100%, depending on the school and depending on how your child performed as well. And the number and discount offered varies by school, right? So, having known this information, so what opportunities are available for your child? Okay, so what we've created is an online scholarship searcher. So in the past, when I've had to find details on scholarships for parents on behalf of parents, what I often had to do was I often had to search specifically for the school that the parent wants to enroll their child into. So for example, it could be Westbourne Grammar, right? Then I would have to look for the search tool. I would have to type in scholarship just to see whether they had a scholarship page. And then I would then follow that link, go to that page, and then, have a look through. So what we've done is we've been able to create a database of all schools that have some sort of scholarship or accelerated learning program around Australia, and we've put it all into a scholarship searcher tool. So, if you are interested in having your child sit scholarships, then it's a really good tool for you to be able to search up any available scholarships near your area, right? So that you don't miss out, or your child doesn't miss out on any opportunities. Okay, so the link is scholarshipsearcher.com.au. So I'll drill into how to use it. So here I've just typed in Werribee, right? So in the scholarship search tool. So you can also just search directly for the school to see whether a scholarship exists in a school around your area. You can search by state. You can enter your postcode, and then you just search, right? And then it just comes up with some results, right? So here you've got 5 records. And then if you can just click on the details, and that will go directly to the scholarship page, which will save you a lot of having to search for things. And then you can click on the website, or you can click in on extra details. So you've got the actual website, you've got what test company, you've got recommended products to help you from our bookstore, right? So that's the scholarship searcher. So we also can search for accelerated learning programs as well. So accelerated learning programs are gifted programs often run by government schools, offering the opportunity to join a class specifically selected based on academic ability, right? So if you didn't want your child to sit a scholarship, because even though it might be 50% a 50% scholarship, 50% of $25,000 is still out of reach for a lot of families. And so with accelerated learning programs, they're often government schools, so there are little to no fees whatsoever, and your child still gets a really high quality education, right? So just note that various schools have different names and offerings for this type of program due to its independent nature. So for example, it could be called SILP, it could be called ACE, it could be called SEEP, etc. Right? So just be aware of different names that might exist. They're not all SEAL programs. And we recommend that you pursue further research for your chosen school. Right, so we'll specifically talk about the Select Entry Accelerated Learning Program in today's call, okay, so the SILP exam. So that's an accredited program overseen by an independent body that has been operating specific programs at authorised schools since 1980. It allows students to accelerate their learning by either skipping year 8 so that they finish year 12 earlier, or they may choose to complete year 12 over 2 years to lessen the load, and that's why it's an accelerated learning program. You can actually finish high school 1 year earlier and go to university 1 year earlier, right? So that's the beauty of this program as opposed to the other programs. So students will be placed in a specially selected class for the duration of their secondary schooling. So often you just mix with the 30 or 40 students who are selected as part of that SILP program, because often they have a different timetable, they have different break times. Yeah, so it's a very special class for students who have been selected to join that class and to join that particular program. All right, so accelerated learning programs have only 1 or 2 accelerated classes within a school with students who have to pass an exam in order to join. But then we have a few selective schools around Victoria, right? So selective schools, on the other hand, will allow you to gain entry to an entire school where students have been selected based on their performance on an academic test, right? So currently in Victoria, there are 4 select entry high schools, right? So we've got Melbourne High, we have Macrob, which is a girls' school. Melbourne High is a boys' school, all boys' school. Suzanne Cory High, which is co-ed, and Nossal High, which is also co-ed. So this exam follows the EduTest structure, right? So the way it works is students who want to gain entry into one of these schools will sit one exam, and that's often in June, right? And you just write down your preferences as to which school you want to join, and then based on the results of the test and based on perhaps an interview or a letter or an application letter, they will place you into a relevant school if you do pass that test. So students will sit the Victorian Selective Schools exam when they are in Year 8 for entry into Year 9. And this is probably the best time in which to sit the exam, because if you pass the test, then you get in straight away, right? If you leave it till Year 9, what will happen is that they've done most of their selection. They've got enough clever kids in the school. So what they're looking for at a Year 9 level are students who can contribute to the school, right? So whether you're at a state level in a sports team, you are a very, very talented musician who's a seasoned performer, so you're elevating the image of the school. And in Year 9, when you sit the exam, even if you get 5 superiors or 4 superiors, you still need to write an application letter and sit an interview, right? In most cases. So you don't just get straight in, because it's a lot more competitive, because Victorian selective schools have this thing called the 5% rule. So only the top 5% of students who pass the exam from any particular school can gain entry into that school, right? So for example, just say your school has 100 students. The maximum number of students who can gain entry to one of the Victorian selective schools is only 5, right? And those 5 students need to pass the exam up to a minimum standard, up to a very high standard, actually, I should say. All right, and even if you do pass the exam to a high standard and you miss out because of the 5% rule, then you won't be accepted unless they invite you to write an application letter or to sit an interview. All right, so that's something to think about. So often what parents have done in the past is they have enrolled their children at schools that aren't necessarily academic, right, to give their children a better chance of gaining entry into the school. Now, there are a couple of problems with that approach. One is that if they don't pass the exam, then they're stuck at that school, which might not necessarily be the best option for them. Okay, and if it's just done in a strategic sense, then, it may backfire on you. Okay, sometimes it has, sometimes it hasn't, but that's just a risk. The second problem with that is that you might forego other opportunities earlier on in your child's schooling. So, for example, you might not have your child sit accelerated learning exams to get into accelerated learning programs or scholarships, which actually might suit them better. So for me, I would recommend more so to choose the best option at the time for your child, and then for other opportunities that come up later on, like the Victorian Selective Schools test, that's just like cherry on the cake, right? So it's like icing on the cake. It's great if you can, but if not, you're already at the best school for your child at the time, right? I hope that makes sense. But that's just something to think about. Of course, what you do is completely up to you and your family. But in the past, I've seen a lot of situations where those types of decisions have backfired, and the child, could have gone to a better school than what they were, where they ended up. Okay, so in terms of the Victorian Selective Schools test as well, the test will include questions that are several years above a student's existing level, and that goes across all these competitive exams. They're not just going to give these places away for free, okay, especially the scholarship exams, because they're often worth, over the life of your child's schooling, sometimes in excess of $120,000 a year, right? So they're going to make it really difficult, and they need to make it competitive. So that's just something to think about. So while you can sit the exam each year until year 11, it's best to sit the exam in year 8 for the reasons that I mentioned before. So another common question is my child ready to sit a scholarship, accelerated, or selective exam? So the first question that you need to ask yourself is, did your child score above average scores across all sections of their Naplan test? So the Naplan test is, depending on how you feel about the Naplan test, I actually think that the Naplan is a good measure of your child's abilities because every child in their cohort needs to do it. So it's a really good gauge as to how they are performing in relation to the other students in their cohort. Right? So that if they're doing really, really well and they're off the charts, then that's where they're sitting. And these are the same students that they will be competing against in all other exams from that point up until year 12, and including the year 12 exams as well, right? As long as they're consistent up to that point. So, for example, if your child's Naplan results are in this triangle consistently, then they're doing really, really well, and they have a really, really good chance of succeeding on the selective, on any selective schools exam or scholarship exams, right? If they're kind of in the middle to below this shaded area, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's definitely doable as long as your child wants it badly enough and as long as your child is willing to work hard, and it actually needs to come from your child, right? So I'll give you a story. I had a student a couple of years ago. She was in year 8 and she started preparing. She actually came in for an assessment at the beginning of year 8. And we did the assessment with her, and we found that her English was great. Her English was off the charts up here. But her maths, she barely knew her times tables. She wasn't very confident with her fractions as a result because she didn't really know her times tables. Didn't really understand, hadn't really done algebra. And this was at the beginning of year 8 and the exams in June. Anyway, so we did the assessment and I said to her, your English is great, but you've got a long way to go with your maths. And she said, I'll do whatever I need to do in order to get into the school, into McRobb. McRobb was where she wanted to go. And so then I said to her, okay, well, currently you're at about a year 5, year 6 level for maths, if that. And you need to get up to about a year 10 level within 6 months. And she said, I'll do it. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. And I said, why is it so important to you to get into this school? And she said, I'm currently getting bullied at my school and it's not even an option to stay. And I can't go to any other school in my area because they're all the same. Because, she's bright, but, the school system unfortunately let her down in that they weren't teaching her maths. And she knew that she was behind with that. And she was just so determined to get in. Anyway, within 6 months, she attended our classes. She did all of our mock exams. She did all the practice exams in our bookstore. She did some private tutoring sessions as well. And, and a month before the actual exam, we hold a mock exam. So she did that. And again, her English was really great, but her maths was just around an average, if not below average. And it was only a month to go. Anyway, the good thing about the mock exam is that she was able to see and pinpoint exactly how she would be performing if she were to have taken the exam on that day. And so she said, okay, so I need to work on my quadratics. I need to work on my linear graphs and linear equations. And so then we worked really, really hard on those areas. And after the exam, happy to say she ended up with a superior for numerical reasoning and a high average for mathematics. And she ended up getting into McRobb. And that I've never seen such a transformation like that before. And I don't think I've seen one since. But that just shows how just sheer grit, hard work, dedication, belief, the power of your mind, the power of the human spirit, and how much that actually comes into play when it comes to preparing. You can prepare years and years in advance, but if your child's kind of just having a half-hearted effort towards it, then they're probably not going to get in over a student who just is determined and to do everything that it takes to redo any questions answered incorrectly, just going to the ends of the earth. And it's just that attitude as well, that beyond exam preparation, beyond schooling, will just take you really, really far in life. It's the student, it's the person who goes the extra mile who will be the most successful, right? Anyway. So another question that you need to ask yourself is your child curious about and passionate about learning new things, right? So if your child often asks you questions about things, okay, then they're likely to be a good candidate for these accelerated learning programs, because they're going to be in a class of like-minded, curious and high-performing students who are likely to accelerate them and to push them a little bit further beyond what they're capable of. Okay, and they also inspire each other as well. And that's probably the best part about joining an accelerated learning program or the selective school. It's because of the students that are there. Okay, because often students might be at the top of the class at one particular school, but then they join the selective school and they find that they're actually quite average, if not below average, right? So then when they thought that they were right up the ceiling, it's actually pushing them to go beyond what they're capable of achieving. The third question you need to ask yourself is, does your child feel unchallenged by their current schoolwork? So if they're often bored at school, then that's something that, something to think about. Does your child have a talent for thinking creatively, right? So if you ask your child a question like, how many uses are there for a paperclip? And they come up with all these weird and wonderful ideas, then, they're thinking creatively, and that should be nurtured in the school that they're going to be joining. And is your child in grade 5 or year 7? Because this is when we start our test preparation classes. Right, so another question that parents often ask is, when should I start preparing? So for scholarship exams, so students in year 5 who will be sitting their exams in year 6, our program starts at the beginning of year 5, right? So if your child's currently in year 5 and they have some of those attributes that I mentioned just earlier, then this is something that you might want to consider, right? And it's not something that you want to leave later on in the year either, because our program, it keeps building on from previous topics. So as long as your child starts from the very beginning of that course, it should be absolutely fine. Right, so we start off with a free assessment. We determine where your child's strengths and weaknesses are, and then we then have them join the class if they're capable of doing that. And if we find that they're a little bit behind, like that student that I mentioned to you earlier, what we suggested to her as well was to join another regular year 7 maths class, right? Because she just needed that extra support in order to just have. In order just to build a strong foundation in which to learn additional, more complicated concepts, right? So if you start in term 2 or term 3, then it means that you've missed out on term 1 and term 2, which was where we started the building blocks on which term 3 and term 4 would then build upon. This program ends at the end of term 4. So then if your child has an exam in May, or June, then they can continue their preparation just through exam packs that we have, and I'll go through some of those a little bit later. Okay, so in terms of accelerated learning programs, so again, if your child's in year 5, then you can start preparing at the start of term 1, and that program also ends at the end of term 4. That should be term 4. And in terms of selective schools exams, this will start when your child is in year 7, and it will start for us in the middle of the year, so at the start of term 3, because the exam is in June. So what will happen is your child will prepare for the first term in term 3. They'll then have the second term in term 4. The third term will be in term 1. And then the final term just before the exams in June will be in term 2. And this is when we do most of our exam papers, okay? So the idea is that we build knowledge within the first 3 terms, and then the final term is when we do a lot of exam preparation. I know that there are a lot of programs out there, not Spectrum, who will do practice exams from the very beginning of the course up until the exam. The problem with this is that if your child's in year 7 and they're being given material that is being tested at about a year 10 level, they don't have the foundation in which to even answer those questions. And if they're only seeing questions piecemeal, one at a time, they're seeing a quadratics question here, they're seeing a Pythagoras question here, they're seeing a trigonometry question here, they're seeing, an algebraic fractions question over here. There was no foundation for that. And at year 7, you're not learning those concepts. So what will happen is that week upon week, your child will just be really, really frustrated. Okay. And so what we do is we will build up their knowledge from the very start of that course. Okay. So we'll start off with mental maths, even though it seems really, really basic. When we do the mock exams every single year, what I see time and time again, and what will slow your child down the most out of anything, is doing arithmetic, using the working paper to work out simple arithmetic sums like 25 plus 38. Okay, so that takes a long time to write 25 plus 38, and when you've only got 30 seconds to answer each question, you don't have the time to be writing that. You need to be able to answer those questions within a split second, right? So we start off with mental calculation, so then we can then build on from that. We then do algebra in the second term. Third term is geometry and measurement. And in the final term, we just bring it all together. All right, so what topics do you cover in your classes? So let me share a little secret with you when it comes to test preparation and scholarship preparation. All scholarship, accelerated, and selective exams are all built the same way. And this is from our 20 years of experience preparing these students for these tests, right? So for example, all exams, regardless of whether they're scholarship, accelerated, ACE, SEEP, selective, they all have a reading comprehension component, right? So we have that as a core in our classes. They all have to have a mathematics component, and these mathematics concepts often test students several years ahead of where they're currently at. So if they don't prepare, then they won't even get the exposure to it. And it might be the case that your child might be very bright, right? And they might just be able to work out the answer on during the exam. But when you've only got 30 seconds to complete each test, it might take your child 3 minutes to complete that particular question. What will happen then is that they might answer 20 questions out of the 60 with 100% accuracy, but then they're still getting only 33%, right? As opposed to, 80% accuracy, but they're answering all of the questions. So then they're still getting 80%, right? So the worst thing that can happen for your child is seeing questions for the first time, which is why you would prepare, right? You would prepare because at least they'll have a technique before walking into the exam room, okay? You're not just throwing them to the lions. And that's why it's important to prepare, especially for maths, because often, and depending on the school that your child attended previously, they might not have covered a lot of the maths. For that student that I mentioned earlier, year 8, she didn't know how to do any algebra. She didn't really know how to do her fractions. And it wasn't from lack of intelligence at all. For someone to go from a year 5, year 6 level to a year 10 level, it just goes without saying, right? So all exams will have a mathematics component. They'll also all have a writing component, because this is really what separates one student from the next, right? Because if everybody just gets 100% for all their multiple choice, then how can you separate students any further? Okay, it's through the writing. So the exam that your child might be sitting might have either persuasive or creative, or they might have both, right? Depending on the test. But we prepare students for both. And then some tests will have extra components like numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and abstract or spatial reasoning. All right, so let's have a look at the structure of these exams. So firstly, we'll have a look at ACER, right? So a lot of scholarships, a lot of independent schools use ACER. So that contains a written expression exam, which could be either persuasive or narrative, a humanities component, so that's the reading comprehension, so that's 40 minutes. There's a mathematics component, so there's 28 questions in 40 minutes. And the thing about the ACER exams is that the questions are all about a scenario, and then there will be 3 or 4 questions related to that specific scenario. Okay? So you would often need to answer question 1 and 2 correct in order to be able to answer questions 3 and 4. So it's a bit trickier. Okay? That's why there's only 28 questions that students need to complete in 40 minutes. And then there's also another written expression. So here with ACER, it skews more towards English, right? There's only one mathematics test here, and there are 3 English tests. So if your child's more humanities based, then they're likely to do quite well on the ACER exams, right? Now, in terms of the EduTest exam, there's a written expression, so either creative, 15 minutes, or an analytical. There are some EduTest exams that only have one written expression, okay, and that's either a creative or an analytical, and that will be for half an hour. The time limit for that will be half an hour with 5 minutes planning. There's also a mathematical reasoning exam. So there are 60 multiple choice questions to complete in 30 minutes, and these questions are just standalone questions. They're not like the ACER style questions, which are all about a scenario. These are all just straight maths questions. It's just about speed, right? But these are still at about a year 8 level for students who are sitting the exam in year 6. So that's why you do need that preparation. There's also a reading comprehension component. So there's 50 multiple choice questions in 30 minutes. A numerical reasoning component, so 50 multiple choice questions in 30 minutes. And a verbal reasoning component, so 60 multiple choice questions in 30 minutes. And then we have the academic assessment services. So this will contain a general ability test, which the duration is 45 minutes. And general ability is a mix of numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and spatial abstract reasoning, right? So hope you can see now that all exams are pretty much built the same way, right? The second test is a mathematics component, so that's 45 minutes. Then there's a reading comprehension component, which is 45 minutes. And then there's a written expression, which is 25 minutes. So what can you do to help your child prepare? So the first thing that I would suggest is to make sure that they're reading varied texts. So by varied texts, it means that you can't just read narratives, for example, okay? Or you can't just read persuasive texts, for instance, or even information texts, right? So make sure that your child is reading a lot of different types of texts. Make sure that their mathematics skills are up to standard, right? So they do need to be several years ahead. At the very least, they need to have their basics down pat, like their multiplication, division, fractions, decimals, percentages, measurement, okay, geometry. Make sure that they can confidently structure and write narrative and persuasive essays, okay? And to develop your child's just their opinions, okay? So you might have a child who might not necessarily want to verbalize a lot, okay? They don't like to let you know what their opinions are. It might just be as simple as just asking them some silly would you rather questions, right? Would you rather live on the moon or live on Mars? Why? You know, would you rather be a bird or a fish? Why? right? So get them to justify why, right? So that's a really simple way to get them to come up with arguments on the spot, which is really, really important when it comes to writing essays, okay? Or you can get some help, okay? And that's where we come in. So what programs do you have to help your child prepare? So we have our scholarship and selective courses. So this is our main offering. So we've got 40-week course completed either in person or online. So we cover all aspects of the exams, building up your skills over time to improve your confidence when sitting exams. And it's essential to prepare. Right, so we have a new hybrid complete learning model that we're introducing next year. Okay, so firstly, we'll have our live interactive classes, which will be conducted in person at one of our campuses or online via Zoom if we aren't able to be on campus for any particular reason. And then we have corresponding video lessons. So the problem that we've often found with our live interactive classes is that while there's, it's fantastic, it's the learning model that everybody is used to, sometimes there are some aspects of the course that your child might not necessarily grasp first time round, right? It might also be the case that they leave their homework up until the Friday just before the Saturday class, and so then they've forgotten everything that they've learnt from the previous Saturday, right? And there's no one to ask. Or it might be the case that they came late to class one week and they missed out on some of the explanations, or they might just be away in a particular week because they're ill or they have a social event that they couldn't miss, right? So that's where our corresponding video lessons come in. So after the class, to support your child at home and also to support you at home as well as parents, because, let's face it, some of these concepts you haven't touched for a number of years and you might have forgotten, or you might have been taught in a different way. So in order to make sure that there's that consistency, we have these video lessons. So the way it will work is when your child goes home and they're completing their homework, if there's something that they need clarified, you just simply go straight to the video lessons. You just fast forward to that section, you watch it, and then your child then has the support. All right. It makes your child a lot more independent as well. In the past, the feedback that we've had from some of our parents is that, the child was just researching across Google, YouTube, Wikipedia to find the answer to some of these really, really difficult questions. And they were researching, and good on them for being so persistent with it. But this gives them a chance to be really independent, especially if your child is younger in primary school. Okay, it just empowers them to be able to get those questions answered, right? So the video lessons are just corresponding video lessons, and it's there to support your child and also yourself as well. We also have weekly reporting as part of our classes. So every single week we have a quiz based on the previous week's work, and those results are posted online for you to have a look at so you can track your child's progress throughout the term, right? So you might be used to just having one report at the end of a semester on information that you can't really do anything about by that particular point in time. Okay, so it might say something like, Julie was having issues with fractions. Okay, well, that's great, but we're not doing fractions anymore until next year. But what we can do is we can identify that Julie was having issues with simplifying fractions, so therefore she needs to redo that exercise again, right? Or she needs to see the tutor and the tutor will re-explain that again, or she needs to do additional exercises. You know that in real time so that you can do something about that information, okay? The other reason why we find the quizzes are so effective in our classes is that there's a test every single week that your child needs to prepare for, right? So when I was at school, I remember we had a test at the end of every term or at the end of every semester. And when do the books come out? At the end of the term or at the end of the semester, right? So By having a quiz or having an exam every week that the students are accountable to and that parents will see the results of, students are motivated to prepare for that test and to prepare for that exam. And then we also have printed workbooks, which are courier delivered to your home. So tomorrow is actually the last day where we can guarantee delivery of your books. So if you haven't enrolled yet, or if you're thinking of enrolling, then it's a really good opportunity now. I've got a special offer which I will be sharing with you throughout this presentation, so that you can take advantage of that offer in order to enroll and to lock that in, so that we can have the ample time to prepare these workbooks for you, so that you've got them in time for the first day. Right, so in terms of our hybrid complete learning model, it's normally $950 for 10 weeks. But if you pay by the first day of every term, it's discounted to $900. And then if you can pay by the last day of the term in advance for the following term, you get a further $50 discount to $850, right? And then at the end of term 1, you have the option to enroll for the full year. And if you do that, you get up to 1 term for free. So 850, multiply that by 3 is 2,550. Okay. So in terms of the second option that we have the flexible online learning model. So this is online only. So if you can't attend class live because of scheduling issues or due to distance or so forth, we have on-demand video lessons, like what I mentioned to you before, where you've got a tutor. It's basically like a tutor in your pocket. You can open it up at any time. You can pause, you can rewind, you can repeat. It's on demand. And it covers the entire curriculum. It covers the entire course. So if you're late to test preparation, you can do earlier terms, and you can do it at your child's own pace, and you can do it as quickly or as slowly as you need. Okay, and so you can just cover all of those stones. This also comes with 3 30-minute private tutoring lessons via Zoom. So this is just on demand not on demand, but this is just private Zoom sessions, just to clarify anything from the video lessons that your child didn't quite grasp or that they needed further clarification with. Because often there might be a hurdle that your child just needs to overcome, just through some extra explanations, just explained in a different way. So we've got that added support for you. We also have weekly reporting, so results are posted online and you can track those results. And then we also print out the workbooks and deliver it to your home. In terms of the flexible online learning model, one subject is $650. And if you do 2 subjects, then it's only $100 more. So that's $750. Okay. And if you enroll for the full year, you get up to 1 term for free again. So it's $2,250. And with our yearly price, it comes with a few bonuses, right? So not only do you get up to 1 term for free, but you get a free $149 personalized discount code to download 3 full-length exam packages with fully worked solutions to practice your timing. So this can be purchased from www.spectrumdigitalshop.com, and that's our online bookstore. We also have a free $99 admissions bundle to assist students invited to write an application letter or to sit an interview with the principal as part of the principal's discretionary category. But only students invited to go through this process will have access to this bundle. We have a third option as well. So there are parents who don't want to do a course. They just want their child to complete practice papers. So we're starting a new offering in term 1 next year. So these are the selective exam classes, and this will only take place in the last 2 terms of selective preparation. So it will just be in term 1 and term 2 before the exam, the 2 terms just before the exam, right? So with this, every 2 weeks, students will complete a persuasive writing piece, as well as a verbal reasoning test and a reading comprehension test. So what will happen is in the first 1.5 hours, they will complete a writing task, they will complete a verbal reasoning test, they will complete a reading comprehension test. And then in the next 1.5 hours, we'll go through the answers. Okay, so we'll correct it on the spot. Your child will get feedback straight away, and then we'll go through answers. Right? And then the week after that, they'll complete a creative writing essay. They'll also do a full numerical reasoning test and a full mathematics test. And again, corrected on the spot. Your child is given a report, and then we will go through the answers in the last part of that class. Every week, we'll have correction, feedback, and online support as well. So all of these exams that we'll be using in these classes will have a corresponding video. Okay, so during the week, your child can actually watch back and go through the video to see where they went wrong with a particular question. They can redo the exam if they want to, okay? And they're able to get that support before the following week's class. So in terms of this class, it is $2,000 for 10 weeks. That's our normal price. But if you pay on the first day of the term, it's discounted to $1,750. And then if you can pay before the term, it's discounted to $1,500. So that's for the full 10 weeks. Okay, so you're just doing practice papers here. So there's no course. We recommend that you do this in conjunction with the selective exam preparation classes, okay, either completed in person or online, just to get the complete and full experience. Okay. The other option, okay, which is more cost effective for some families, is the selective membership, which will also be starting in term 1. So if you didn't want to do 3 exams each week, okay, you might think that's a little bit much in addition to the selective exam classes, we have a selective membership. So for $49 per week, and this is just direct debited, and this is going to be conducted online. Okay, so often last year we did it on a Tuesday evening from 5 till 7 p.m. So what will happen during this offering is students will complete 1 weekly practice exam on one of the 4 multiple choice areas. So either reading comprehension, verbal reasoning, mathematical reasoning, or numerical reasoning. And the exam isn't communicated to students prior. Students need to be always prepared for all 4 exams at any time. Okay. So the exam will be completed to live timed conditions online. So for the first half an hour, the students will just complete the exam. And then for the remaining session, the remaining time of that session, a designated tutor will go through tips and provide solutions to the exam following the exam. Okay, so they'll just go through step by step how to answer the questions. And then we have another option, which is our mock exam. So as I was mentioning before, we have from 1 month before the exam, we conduct a live mock exam where students simulate the actual exam before the day. Right, so the exam will be completed to live timed conditions in person. So this is where students need to find their seat, on a chart. They need to find their number. They need to sit down. They have all the other students around them. It's often in a cold hall, right? So they'll be able to see how much actual time they have. Okay, and I highly recommend that everybody do this if they are able to. Okay, it's about a month before the exam. So the exams will be marked and reports will be sent out along with the exam paper and the worked solution so that you can see how you can improve in that final month before the actual day. And this is $375. Okay, so our in-person classes can take place at one of our locations around Melbourne. So we have a centre in Broadmeadows, Brunswick, Footscray, Hoppers Crossing, Keysborough, Oakley, St Albans and Thomastown. At the time of this particular webinar, our Hoppers Crossing campus will be closed in Term 1 due to construction works, and we'll be communicating with you if we're able to open earlier, but we are currently in the process of trying to find an alternative location, right? So we may be able to open up in Term 1, but for now, just expect to be online via Zoom, and we'll be back in person as soon as we can. And all enrolments must start with a free assessment, which we'll be sharing with you at the end of today's session. And our bonus offer, which is what I was telling you before, is you're going to be able to get a further $300 off the yearly price if you pay by the end of this month, right? It's actually by the end of today. That should be changed by today because tomorrow is the cutoff for the printing. So if you wanted to enroll, now is the best time to do it because you get $300 off for the full year, and that essentially means that you are paying this year at last year's fees and getting all the benefits for this year, which is our online video lessons. Okay, so that's by tomorrow. And this is only for webinar attendees only. So at the end of today's session, I have a link which you will be able to join, and then you'll be able to find the code that way. And the code will be shared in the Trello board at the end. So if you sign up to receive that Trello board, then and it's absolutely free, then you'll get the code. Now, that's all well and good to have a 40-week course, but what if I've left it to the last minute? So I'll just share with you a story in terms of the worst situation that I've ever encountered in terms of leaving things to the last minute. A couple of years ago, I had a parent who purchased an advance pack from our online bookstore, and I got a frantic call at 5 o'clock saying, I'm at the library at the moment, it's 5 o'clock, I'm trying to print the exam out because my child's exam is tomorrow. What do? I can't print it. Well, I can't really do anything at 5 o'clock the day just before the exam. So please try not to leave it to the very, very, very last minute. But we have resources that can get to you if that is the case. Right, so what I would suggest for you to do, if you have left it to the very last minute, is to just complete plenty of practice exams, because by this point, it's not about learning content. You just don't have the time, and it's very, very overwhelming to learn everything. What you need is just exposure to as many different types of questions as you possibly can within a very short amount of time. And we have produced materials with this particular situation in mind, right? So if this is you, I would start here. We have what we call mock exam bundles, right? So it's like the mock exams that I mentioned before, but we've recorded the workshops, and we have provided those files in digital form for you to complete at home under a timing track, like a timed track. So it will say to you, you just play the track while your child's completing the exam, and it'll say 15 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, time's up, okay? Or your time starts now. So it'll simulate that environment at home. Okay, so this is $225 in our digital bookstore. We have one for Year 6 students, and we have one for Year 8 students, right? So students who are preparing for scholarships or accelerated learning programs in Year 6, and students who are preparing for the Selective Schools test in Year 8. Okay, so start there if you haven't done any preparation and you've only got a couple of weeks left. So in this package, we've bundled together our full-length 2.5-hour mock exam following the EduTest structure. And even if your child's completing the ACES structure, do the EduTest preparation because there are just more questions. Okay, it's just, you just get more practice. And by completing the numerical reasoning and verbal reasoning, that will help with mathematics and that will help with your reading comprehension components anyway. So that's what I would recommend. We'll provide you with worked solutions for all multiple choice sections. So if your child answers any questions incorrectly, then they can just simply go to the worked solutions. And the way we've written it like we've imagined a child next to us, and we just go through step by step how to answer this question if they didn't have, even as if they've not had any prior knowledge on that particular concept. We also provide you with a sample analytical and creative essay based on the prompt, so your child can compare their essay against sample essays. And we also have a recording of our mock exam workshop. So there's about 7 hours of video content. So, it's a really, really great way just to have a crash course on each of these programs, right? It is a very short amount of time, but you can still do quite a lot. And then after that, the bare minimum is to complete one of our basic packs, right? So that's $49. It includes our full-length numerical reasoning exam, a full-length verbal reasoning exam, a full-length mathematical reasoning exam, a full-length reading comprehension exam, 2 writing prompts, so 1 creative, 1 persuasive, and basic answers. So for numerical reasoning, it will just say A, B, C, D. It won't be like in the mock exam where we have full solutions step by step. So in total, you'll receive 1 full exam with basic answers. So then you can apply what you've learnt from completing the online mock exam, okay, to the track, and from what you've learnt from redoing any questions answered incorrectly from the exams, and also just by watching the videos. So we have a basic pack for both Year 6 students who are doing the EduTest and also Year 8 students, right? So at a bare minimum, that's what you would do. Just say if you had a week to go before the exam. We also have an advanced pack, right? So this follows the EduTest structure. So the advanced pack will include 3 full-length numerical reasoning exams, 3 full-length verbal reasoning exams, 3 full-length mathematical reasoning exams, 3 full-length reading comprehension exams, 6 writing prompts, so 3 creative, 3 persuasive, and full worked solutions for every single practice paper, right? So the basic pack will be part of this advanced pack. So if you wanted, if you already, you don't need to buy both, right? So if you're thinking about one or the other, well, this one will give you more practice and it will give you full solutions as well, right? So in total, you'll receive 3 full exams with full solutions. So this is $149. We also have an advanced pack for our ACES structure. So this will have 3 full-length reading comprehension exams, 3 full-length mathematical reasoning exams, abstract reasoning exams, 6 writing prompts, so 3 creative, 3 persuasive, and full solutions as well. And we also have one for the academic assessment services structure. So 3 full-length general ability, mathematical reasoning, reading comprehension, writing prompts, and these are full solutions. So all the ones with full solutions are $149. And I'd like to introduce you to our brand new pack for our primary school kids who are preparing for exams that might take place in Year 3, Year 4, and Year 5. So we have an advanced pack for our primary school kids. So we'll have 5 full-length mathematical reasoning exams, 5 full-length reading comprehension exams, 10 writing prompts. So you've got 5 creative and 5 persuasive, and these contain full solutions. So in total, you'll receive 10 full exams with full solutions, and that's $149 as well. We also have a writing bundle here. So in this pack, we've bundled together how to write a narrative essay in 15 minutes and how to write a persuasive essay in 15 minutes. So if you can write in 15 minutes, you can write in 30 minutes. All right. So we've got this title here to support your writing. And the way we've written these writing bundles is all you need to do is just follow each short chapter as it guides you through each component. So it'll say, for example, if we're talking about persuasive, right? So in a persuasive essay, you need to have an introduction, and it needs to have these components here. Here are some template sentences to get you started. Here's an example. Now it's your turn to write your own introduction, right? Once you've written your introduction, it then goes into the next part. Okay, now in a body paragraph, these are the components that you have. Here's an example. This is what you would do in the way of writing your own. Here you go, right? So it's like a guided tutor taking you through. So if you work well with your child, for example, something like this would work really well in your family, okay? Or if your child's quite independent, they can just read through and learn how to write a narrative or a persuasive essay themselves. Now, for our selective students, we have an ultimate package. So in this package, we've bundled together 2 volumes of the advanced pack, which you can purchase separately for $149. But here we've bundled it together. So we've got the Selective Advanced Pack Volume 1, Selective Advanced Pack Volume 2, and the writing bundle for $349. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of a discount there. And then we have our complete preparation package. So in this package, you'll have everything that you need to prepare for the Victorian Selective Schools test online. So I did a 6-part workshop with some students before the last Selective Schools test, and so the recordings are available. And we also will provide essay correction for you. It includes a full exam package as part of the video lesson package, okay? And the value of that is $1,225. It'll also include the mock exam bundle, so that's $225. It'll also include the ultimate package. The value of that is $349. And we also include an admission bundle. So if your child missed out because of the 5% rule, then we actually have a book to help them with that. So how to write a winning school application letter, which at 12, 13 years old, your child probably has never done before. And so what we've done is we have gone through step by step the same way that we wrote the writing bundle, where we go through step by step how to write a winning school application letter. And this is actually from students who we've helped get into these schools who have gone through that process. So we know that these ones work because they got these students in. And it also includes a school interview book. So we'll include questions that have been asked at these interviews, also how to handle different activities, especially with the panel interviews and group interviews as well. So it's quite an intimidating process for a lot of students. So again, you want to be as prepared as possible, and this package will contain everything. We'll also include a check-in call, so a live check-in call with one of our team members who will call you up and to see where you're at, to give you advice on how to go about it. But as I mentioned before, we've got my Trello board as well, which will help you organize yourself when it comes to preparing for whatever period of time you need. Okay, and we also have an online community for anybody who is part of any sort of revision course. They're all part of this online community. So it's like a Facebook group, but it's on our platform. So it's not social media. It's just our own platform where the tutor who looks after the membership, the selective membership, because if you're part of the selective membership and you've purchased one of these packs, you can ask questions relating to these packs with that tutor as well. So it's like that's your dedicated tutor, that's your dedicated person that you can ask questions of throughout your preparation process. Right, so just a few comments from parents who have used these specific resources before. So this is our writing bundle. So Cherry has said that the bundle is extremely helpful, especially the persuasive writing book. Very good for students who struggle with the time, ideas, and structure. The narrative writing book is also great. Very good for parents who want to have some fun and achieve great results to work with their kids at home at their own time. Okay, so Sharon used the accelerated learning advanced pack with her child preparing for the scholarship. So this is a very extensive pack which provides depth and challenge to really prepare for a scholarship exam. The detailed solutions allow for greater revision and targeted learning. My son has made good use of the 3 different packs, using the first to steadily work through the questions and review the mistakes, and the following packs to sit as timed tests. I would highly recommend this exam pack for anyone looking to prepare for exams and revise in a targeted manner. So that's what I suggest to parents when they're using these packs. You have 3 goes at it. So the very first time you complete one of these packs, you just let your child complete it to whatever time it takes them to complete, right? So provided that you've got enough time, that you've given it enough time. And some parents only use some of our packs to prepare. They don't prepare using any of our classes at all. Okay, it depends on, every child's different, so you need to just make whatever decision is best for your child. So the very first pack you should just complete to however long it takes. If it takes them 2 hours to complete one test, then so be it. That's how long it takes them. Okay, so you just do one each day. Then what you need to do is to use the detailed solutions to correct the test, and then to use the detailed solutions to work out exactly why you went wrong with each of those questions. Redo the questions, redo that test paper until you get 100%. And then with the next pack, just say you're given 30 minutes on the actual test. Give yourself maybe 45 minutes or 1 hour per test. If it took you 2 hours before, give your child 1 hour to complete this test, or 45 minutes, right? Just to see how far how far they can go. And then following that, go through that same process where you're using the solutions to correct and redo questions. And then that last pack should be the actual exam time. So 30 minutes to complete 60 questions and see how they go. But by that stage, they would have built up quite a lot of knowledge and technique as well on how to answer some of those questions really, really efficiently. Now, Arun used our Ultimate Pack, and he has said, I just ordered the Ultimate Pack for Year 9 Selective Schools entrance exam preparations. It's really good for practicing for select schools entry exams, and it develops a better understanding and develops more in thinking out of the circle for success. And the answers are provided right there, which is very helpful. I highly recommend this Ultimate Pack for every student who is having ambitions to go beyond the boundary. So the offer that I have for you, and this ends at the end of this weekend, so you have until Sunday night, midnight. I'm giving you 50% off all items in the digital shop, right? So that will be for all of any item. So that will be our mock exam bundles. It will include our basic packs. It'll include our advanced packs, higher ability, primary years pack. So especially if you've got a child who's preparing and they're about to sit their exams and you don't have these resources yet, this is a great time because I never give 50% off. Okay, so this is a really good time and to take advantage. Writing bundles there, the ultimate package, you can get that at 50% off. You can get the complete package at 50% off, right? Even just all of the bonuses that we're providing is worth already $900, and then you get the video lesson package as well. All right, so that's just something to think about, and stay until the end to find out how to get a special 50% off code for the digital bookstore, and that will be as well in our Trello board. All right, so you'll need to, I really want to encourage you, especially you're all on the call because you're interested in preparing for test preparation. I want you to have that Trello board, and that's why I've got all those little codes in there for you, but I'm not going to give it to you until the end. So another common question is, how can you cover all the content effectively? So essentially we get students from a year 5 level to a year 8 level within 1 year. And we also get students from a year 7 level to a year 10 level in 1 year. And you need to be at those levels in order to even be competitive on these exams, because we have been preparing students for these exams over 2 decades now. And the students who have successfully gotten in have been at that level. All right, so that's why I say that, and that's why, I often have parents or students saying to me, What's the minimum number of superiors in order to stand a chance? Don't aim for anything below 100%, right? So that's because you never know what the next student is. You shouldn't take your eye off the ball. If it's anything to go by with that student that I was talking to you about before, who was bullied, I mean, nobody had the grit and tenacity that girl had. And if there are more students like that your child's competing against, then at your child's school, you don't know what people's backgrounds are, right? And that's not something that she would, I believe, share freely either. So it's just something to think about, right? So how do we cover all of the content effectively? It's all through links. Okay, that is the secret to success at school and beyond. It's finding links between topics that you know to connect with new topics, right? And the link needs to be very, very clear, and it needs to be very familiar for students. And this is the way for students to gain a deeper understanding of those concepts. So they might have a very superficial knowledge of one concept, but then if you link it to something else that they already know, then they have a deeper understanding of it. Okay, and it allows time to revise errors in their work. So if they've got a deep knowledge and they can see links between topics, then they can go back and actually revise their work and do so in a meaningful way. So I'll give you an example of how we form these links for students, all right? So in the Year 6 exam, total surface area is a very common topic, very common concept that's tested. But this is not a Year 5 concept, right? Some schools might cover it, but the majority won't. In terms of measurement, what will be covered in Year 5 is generally just area, perimeter. You won't have circumference. You might, of different types of shapes, right? Very rare that you might cover composite shapes, but it's just basically perimeter and area of different shapes, right? So the way we would do it in our classes, in our Year 5 selective classes, scholarship classes, is we would firstly start off by revising the times tables, right? So at this stage, Year 5s should know what their times tables are, really confidently. Then we would then link that to finding the area of a rectangle, which students at Year 5 should know because it's just length times width. It's just multiplication, length times width. We then, within that same class, introduce the concept of three-dimensional shapes, finding the faces of three-dimensional shape, which by that stage students should already know as well, right? So Year 3 students to Year 4 students will know how to count the faces of a three-dimensional shape. And then we then link that to total surface area. So imagine if your child only had practice papers to do and there was a question about total surface area, about John having to paint the surface of his shed and what's the total surface that he needs to paint. I mean, where do you start with that if your child is only in Year 5, okay, and they haven't had these concepts yet? So by doing this, your child is given the foundation and the building blocks and the guidance in order to answer this question, so that next time they see this particular type of question in the exam, and exam questions might cover multiple concepts all at once, right? So not only is this total surface area, it might also test them on fractions. It might also test them on decimals, okay? Percentages, you never know, right? So that's why it's important to understand those concepts really, really clearly in order before giving students practice papers and practice exam questions. So work smarter, not harder. So here is another comment from Lat Young, who actually completed that selective revision course that I mentioned to you earlier. Okay, so this student was involved in that. So this is what he said. The selective revision course has been truly incredible for me, and I'm sure it has been amazing for others as well because of how engaging the learning is and how every single important subtopic has been split into one lesson within the session. So what I did during that during that course was for numerical reasoning, for example. I linked all of the concepts together relating to numerical reasoning. So students had a very clear understanding of all of the concepts. The same thing with verbal reasoning, the same with mathematical reasoning, the same with reading comprehension. It's all about the links, and that's what I was able to achieve, and that's why this student had this particular comment. Now, I'm also going to be running a scholarship revision course. So I haven't completed this yet. I will be starting this next Friday for anybody who is going to be preparing for or will be sitting the exam over the coming months. Right, so I'll be including it as part of a bundle, right? So I'll have a 7-week live revision covering all topics. So every week we're covering a different topic. Okay, this bundle will also include the mock exam bundle that I mentioned to you before. So after completing this revision, you have the mock exam to practice and to apply these newfound concepts to. It will also include one advanced exam pack. So depending on which exam your child will be sitting, okay, so if they're sitting an ACER test, then we'll give you a code to download the ACER exam pack or the higher ability exam pack. If they're doing an EduTest, then then we'll give them that pack. We'll also give them the writing bundle, okay? We'll also give them the interview book. So if they finish, if they manage to pass the exam, then it's unlikely that they will get in straight away, especially with a lot of the schools that are offering scholarships. There will be an interview, right? And so you'll get the interview book as part of this package. We'll also have essay corrections. So the total value of this package is $2,222, and your price is $995 for this 7-week course, and including all of these extra bonuses as well, right? So again, you'll get the 7-week live revision covering all the topics. So that's persuasive writing, analytical, reading comprehension, mathematics, numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and abstract reasoning, right? So it'll cover all 7 components, and as well as all of these as well. Another common question is, what is your success rate? Okay, I can see that there are some questions. I will be answering them right at the end. Okay, so I'll be going through the chat and I'll be answering the questions right at the end. Okay, so what is your success rate? So as you can see, we have every single material that you can possibly imagine to help children with their test preparation. But success will depend on each student's commitment to the test preparation process. If they're constantly making excuses as to why they're not completing the homework, and they're just not interested, they're dragging their feet, they're getting frustrated, then that student won't be successful. And it doesn't matter how much you try, the child needs to want to do this in order to have that success, right? And I would be very, very wary of the companies that say, oh, we get 75% of our students in. It's absolutely impossible to do that. And yeah, just be very wary about what people say to you, because, I mean, I could say anything and you would believe me, but I don't want to say that because it's not true. But what I would say is that students will be accelerated regardless of the result, and that's what our focus is, right? So, of course, we do everything that we possibly can to get students into each of these schools, but the reality is that everybody's preparing now. And, you know, for a school that has 5 places and you've got 400 students who are competing for those 5 places, most students will be missing out. Okay, so there are no guarantees when it comes to test preparation, but what we can guarantee is that your child will be accelerated regardless of the result. So imagine your child, if they're in year 5 and just in the following year, they're working at a year 8 level. doesn't matter what school they go to. At the end of the day, they're going to be a year 8 student doing year 6. So it doesn't matter what school they go to. They will be several years ahead of where they're at. And this is a really great opportunity, even if you're not interested in having your child sit any test, to do this process, because we link those concepts together in a way that we don't really do for the other classes, because the other classes are just straight curriculum classes, right? Whereas with our scholarship and selective preparation classes, we need to get students from a year 5 level to a year 8 level, or a year 7 level to a year 10 level, right? So that's why it needs to be, we needed to rearrange some of the concepts so that they all linked together a little bit better, right? And so students, regardless of the results, that should just be icing on the cake. Students should just enjoy the process of learning and being accelerated in this way, and how powerful the human mind is as well. It's actually really incredible when you give students a goal to achieve, regardless of where they're at. I mean, we've had students also in the past where they've wanted to do the scholarship preparation classes. They have, they started off at about a year 4 level, right? And they did everything that needed to be done. And then we told them that you just need to do these concepts, and they rise to the challenge, right? So it's about making sure that you're setting that goal high, that standard high for your child. And that's what we always do. And that's why we have those weekly tests. And that's why we constantly monitor students, just to make sure that they can be accelerated. But students will be accelerated regardless of the result. Okay, so, we have every program imaginable for both online, offline students, in order to, and it's just really up to the individual student to be able to rise to the challenge, I suppose. Right, so a few more comments from parents who have used our Select and scholarship programs. My older child, so Nick has said that my older child had already been through the Spectrum Scholarship course several years earlier and achieved fantastic results. So when regular school classes turned to learning from home this year, I was very confident that my younger child would greatly benefit from the additional support that Spectrum's comprehensive English and math courses provide. The teachers are passionate and thorough, and the learning structure really supports the students to excel and boost their learning outcomes. Spectrum tuition really does complement their regular schooling. Okay, so Anne has said, our son enrolled for the selective school preparation classes earlier this year and found the weekly classes very helpful. The tutors were always well prepared and took time to clearly explain complex concepts. The materials were very structured, up-to-date and relevant. As parents, we were very happy to be kept well informed of our son's progress via online weekly updates. Our son also attended the mock exam and subsequent workshop conducted by TWEFAM, which provided extremely useful feedback regarding our son's strengths and weaknesses. As a result of these sessions, he was able to focus and further improve on key areas in the lead up to the Selective Schools exam, and was successful in obtaining a first round offer into the school of his choice. To parents who are seeking a structured, supporting learning environment for their children to improve or excel academically, or work hard to get into a selective school or a scholarship, we would highly recommend Spectrum Tuition. Okay, and finally, before I give you the link, we have this comment by Tara, who has mentioned, wonderful teachers, well-structured program, excellent written materials. My son and his cousin went along to Spectrum, the Footscray, Maths, English, scholarship preparation classes on Saturdays for the best part of a year. I was surprised and pleased that both boys were offered scholarships at APS schools, and the course provided a huge confidence boost. After reading research finding that a child's self-esteem follows their academic achievement, not the other way around, as I had presumed, I wanted something to improve my son's fairly average academic performance. He had just begun grade 5. I looked at 4 other possibilities: James Ann, Henderson's, Kumon, and getting a private tutor. Spectrum was considerably further from our home than the other options, but there were two things that set Spectrum apart. Number one, the material taught in sessions and reviewed in the homework is a good fit for the Victorian school curriculum, as well as the ASA and EduTest exams. Number two, the written materials provided to students are very well designed and structured, and the materials have an inbuilt system of revision. There were a couple of things I hadn't expected. Number one, best practice teaching. The skill and enthusiasm of the teachers was absolutely first rate. Number two, there are systems in place to communicate student progress to parents every week. Number three, the academic confidence my son gained in going from an average student to a very good student had a very positive knock-on to every other aspect of his life. And number four, my son learnt that academic success is attainable and comes through consistent, often enjoyable work. I very highly recommend Spectrum. All right, so hopefully, did anybody see the video that I shared earlier on today? Ricky's video? Did anybody see that? Can you give me a thumbs up if you watched that one? Anybody see Ricky's video? Yeah, so Ricky's one of our Selective Scholarship tutors. So I'll be releasing a video series that he is a part of, and he's one of our fantastic tutors, so really, really enthusiastic. All right, so time has come for me to share the link. So now go to online.spectrumtuition.com/webinar-offers, and that is where you will be able to see, to download the Trello board. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So this is the site here. So thank you for joining me on the webinar. Get 50% off all items in the digital bookstore. So what you need to do is to get your 50% off code here. So you click on that link, you just provide your name, your details there, and then you will then have access to the Trello board, and that will have the code, which is valid only until Sunday night. We also have the discount code for the $300 off the yearly price, which will bring down the scholarship preparation course to $2,250 for in-person and online. And if you're just doing regular classes, it will be $1,950. Right. So here I've got links to the scholarship revision course. Right. So if you're interested, then you can just sign up here. Okay. So again, it's $995 for the full course. Be able to go through everything from A to Z. The selective revision course is here, so you do get 50% off by using that code, which ends at the end of this Sunday. You can visit the scholarship searcher here. You can visit our digital bookstore here. So once you've got the code, you can go to the digital bookstore, and you can start your free assessment here as well if you're new to Spectrum Tuition and you want to join our classes. Right? Down the bottom here, if you are an existing family, you can enroll in person just using this link here, or you can enroll in our online only classes here. Right, we've got some more reviews if you wanted to click through. So these are some photos of our beautiful students. We also have our contact details at the bottom as well. All right, so I'm going to stay on for the next 15 minutes up until 9 o'clock for any questions that you may have, right? But otherwise, I do encourage you to go to that link, online.spectrumtuition.com/webinar offers, and to give yourself 50% off any item in the bookstore, and also to sign up to the scholarship revision course as well. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. Now, does anybody have any questions? Okay, link in the chat. Yep, so online, I'll just put it up here for you. online.spectrumtuition.com/webinar-offers. There you go. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Oh, sorry, it's F, webinar offers. Yeah, so it's the one Carla, it's the one that Carla has. Sorry, I forgot the F. So, yep. Now, Susan has also asked any tips of good source to read nonfiction. To be honest with you, just being on the internet with your child, just searching for something that she's interested in or he's interested in, just say on Wikipedia, looking at a topic that they're interested in, say whales, and then, or a news article, having a look at. We also have a page on our website. I'll find the link for you, which has just free exam papers. So there are a lot of different types of passages there as well. National Geographic would be another one. So yeah, just thinking about recipes, instruction manuals. So over Christmas or during their birthday, if they get some electronics and it has a manual there, encouraging them to read through it. So these are all examples of just varied texts, right? Also going to the museum and encouraging your child to read captions of different displays is also another really, really good way to just to immerse them in the world around them. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so Advic has asked, do private schools also offer SILP or accelerated learning programs? Say a student gets through scholarship private school, will the private school offer accelerated programs automatically to the student? No, often there aren't accelerated learning programs. They might have graded classes or streamed classes within that school, but they won't have a specific accelerated learning program. They just won't have the resources to, because that wasn't the purpose of that particular position at the school. Right, so if I haven't answered your question further up, if you can post it up again at the bottom, then I can answer that. Which structure is used in Selective? Nick has asked. So that will be the EduTest structure. Thank you, UK. Thank you, King. All right, Nikhil. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Rahini. Okay, thank you, Carla, for finding that link for me. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If anybody has any other questions, then please feel free to ask them. The other thing that I used to do when I was younger, my family always had a newspaper just on the kitchen table, okay, whether it was the Herald Sun or the Age, it was always there. And I remember when I got home from school, I would have my after school snack and I would have it at that table. And I was bored, I just picked up the paper. And that's how I just incidentally started an interest in current affairs and news and that type of thing. And so that's also something to consider, because often, especially persuasive essay prompts, they're often of a topical issue that's currently in the news at that time. So if your child has read an article, an opinion article, or a feature article about that, then they have more arguments, okay, stronger arguments. If you haven't checked out the video that I shared of Ricky, it's on our YouTube channel. Maybe Carla can find that one as well and then just link that up. But Ricky goes through a few mistakes that kids make when they're writing their selective and scholarship exam essays. And so that's, a couple of those things might be good to avoid as well. So yeah, having a newspaper will have a lot of nonfiction there, and it will have topical issues. And then that way, if your child's reading something and then they might want to discuss something, right? So then it allows them to just improve on their verbal, their verbal skills and just open up a dialogue and connecting and bonding with you as well. So, it's all positive. Any other questions? Okay, so Rohini has asked, if my daughter takes an interactive online class, will it be possible for her to view the recording later? Yes, so with this scholarship revision, it will include, I will be recording all of the sessions, and after the session, I'll be uploading it to a portal. So your child can always recap, and it will also include, it will also include all of those exam packs as well. Okay. Okay, Advic has also asked, how is the homework checked for video lessons? So students need to post, need to scan their work through and post it to us. We also have Kaylee, who is responsible for all of our online students. So she actually calls up all of our online students every single week, just as a proactive measure to make sure that students don't feel like they're being, that there's nobody there at the other end, right? Because often with video lessons, it might not necessarily feel as interactive as a live session, but there is somebody checking in every single week. There are some parents who prefer not to have those weekly check-ins. They prefer a video feedback or anything like that. But Kaylee, she gets onto every single person each week. So that way, if we're putting in a call to you and your child happens to have an issue that for that particular week, they can ask the tutor straight away and get those questions answered. Right, so hopefully that answers your questions. I would recommend, if you are doing the online classes only, to download a free app called Tiny Scanner. It uses your iPhone as, it has an app on your iPhone which converts your phone into a scanner. All you have to do is just take a photo and it converts it into a PDF document. It's quite amazing. And so then that way you can just easily just send it through to us. We have a form that you need to submit through, and that will then route to your tutor. Okay. Now, Asif has asked, any recommendations you have on series of books for general reading for year 6 to year 7? Oh, well, depends on what your child's interested in. I would have anything by James Marsden I loved. Harry Potter was really good. And what gender is your child? So things like that. I really liked. I also really liked the Hunger Games series. Dystopian fiction. Really depends on the child, really. Wonder is a really great title. So, that was also another thing that I used to do when I was younger. I used to go to the library each week because my brothers and I, this was when we could still do this, but just ride to the library. Those were the days where you could just go and ride across suburbs to places. And then we used to come back with 10 or 15 books. And that's how I got into a lot of series, Roald Dahl, Paul Jennings, those types of books. So, hopefully that's given you a few ideas. But just have your child go to the library when we can, and to just select, if they're reluctant to read, then just any book. Just go to the library and just say, just one book, right? Make it really easy for them to get started, because if you go to the library and you borrow 15 books straight away, then they're just going to be really intimidated by that. So just going to the library and just borrowing one book that they have chosen themselves. And even if it's something that you wouldn't, if it was a comic book, they're still reading something. Okay, so that's a positive. So next time just say, all right, so last time you borrowed a comic book. This time, if you wanted to borrow a comic book, then that's fine, but I also want one more book. Okay, and then you just build it up slowly that way. Okay, but go according to their interests, because if you criticize their reading choices, then it just puts them off the entire process. So, just be wary when you have a reluctant reader. I do have a recording of this, and I will be sharing that as well. Okay. This is for Mactis. Now, Thano, what is the percentage of Spectrum students that are successful in getting into So it's really difficult to talk about percentages because people join and they leave at different times all throughout the year. And so, some students who join in the last, month, 2 months, they get in over students who have been preparing for years because the attitude is so different. You can see what we have in terms of how we prepare students. And I suppose the best thing for you to do is to just compare how we approach the test preparation with how other people approach test preparation, and to see what ultimately would suit your child, right? For us, the purpose of our classes is to get our Year 7 students to a Year 10 level, right? And if they happen to get into the selective school, then that's a great bonus. But if you have too much pressure on them to get in, that also backfires as well, right? So you have to just enjoy the process of learning, and to encourage them to do every single scrap of work, right? And to make it an enjoyable process, and to encourage them to do that, over pressurizing them too much to get in, because, you can want it as much as you can, but at the end of the day, sometimes there are some things that are completely out of your control. Like, I had a student in one year who was towards, in amongst the top of the cohort at Spectrum, and in that particular year, he brought 1 pencil to the exam, and since then I've been reminding all students to bring 5 pencils to the exam. The exam broke, the pencil broke, and then he had to wait for another one to be given to him. And so, that loses time. There was another student who was really a really strong student as well, but then they decided to go to the bathroom during the numerical reasoning exam. Little things like that will really affect your performance on the exam, completely out of your control. There's also the 5% rule as well, which is also out of your control. So we had a student a couple of years ago who was, one of our top students in the selective schools cohort. He went to a very top performing school, and he missed out because of the 5% rule. This was over a student who was consistently towards the bottom of our classes. That student got into the selective school over that student who was probably a lot more deserving, to be honest. But that's just how it works. That student ended up getting a scholarship to Haileybury instead, 75% scholarship. That was just about 5% rule at his school. I'm not sure. Must have gotten nervous during some aspects of the exam, lost time, who knows, right? And then the following year, he went for the Melbourne High test again. He ended up getting in just to prove to himself that he could get in, right? He ended up staying at Haileybury until Year 12. So, it was all fine. But that's why it's really hard to talk about percentage of students who get in.